Successful people do not do different things, they do things differently. Ira Singhal and Nidhi Gupta have graduated from Netaji Subhash Institute of Technology. Watch UPSC 2014 Rank 1 and Rank 3 talk about the success mantra and listen to what they have to offer to those who wish to crack this prestigious examination.
My main decision came when I was almost 5 or 6 years old. I had to do something for the country and something for the society. Now, at that age, there were only two things that I could think of. One was either be a doctor or be a civil servant, which was IAS or IFS. I didn't actually see anything beyond that. Now, the problem came that my dad didn't let me be a doctor. I ended up in NSIT as an engineer. So, uske baad, this was the only route left. And I thought, okay, let me give civils. And but I also thought that it's a big risk because, the percentage of people who get in every year is very minute and you have to be really lucky. So to remove the luck factor and वो कहते हैं ना राजा रंक वो story ना बने उसके लिए what I did was I went to business school and I did my MBA. I worked for a couple of years. Working gave me a lot of confidence, a lot of perspective, a lot of experience and definitely knowledge. And then I thought, okay, now I feel like I can handle the pressures that come with this job, and I decided to quit. Now, my parents weren't initially very enthusiastic about it because when you're working in a nice company, you have a decent job, you have a nice lifestyle. I was living at Pedder Road, one of the poshest locations in the country, and so they were like, do you really want to do this? Not that they doubted my ability, but they doubted my capacity to study. Because I had never done it, not while I was an engineer, not while I was doing my MBA. So they were a little doubtful about that, and they said, do you really want to go back to studies and do you really want to do something like this wherein you have to put in that much effort? But I was sure that I did, since that emotional satisfaction which you get after a job, like I've done something, that was missing. Even though I was performing very well, that was missing. So I thought, I have to.
In college, I had a little motive to join civil services, but I took a placement because I wanted financial stability and a backup option. So I joined Adobe. While I was working with Adobe, I found that sitting in a cubicle with, just sitting in a computer with no public interaction wasn't a job for me. So that was the time when I thought that maybe through civil services, my ultimate objective of self-satisfaction can be satisfied. So that was the time when I quit the job and started preparation for civil services. There were apprehensions, but for any job that you do, be it a placement, be it a corporate job, be it any sort of job you think of, there are people who will support you, there are people who will oppose you.
Apprehensions, at that point I removed all the apprehensions because I made sure that I had a fallback option. So, I would just waste a couple of years of my corporate career, but that's okay. I thought that was okay.
See, for any objective that you want to achieve, the destination you want to reach, you have to be self-satisfied and disciplined. And the most important motive is you have to be dedicated to completion of that particular goal. So in my case, I was pretty sure that I have to achieve this, and whatever the deviations, I have to nullify at it my own level. So for a positive step, we did not have that much of WhatsApp and Facebook at that time, so the distractions were less. But at the same time, there were distractions in the form of chit chats, gossips, but then you can always manage that with the other things. Sometimes the gossips also teach you, sometimes the gossips also lead to your personal development. So it's how you manage your gossips, your other deviations, and how do you prioritize them with respect to time management as well. So this is an individual driven approach. My approach was for example, I walk a lot, so I used to combine my walks and my chit chats. So in a way, I was self-satisfied of completing both the things, and in a way, I was managing the time as well.
I was not self-disciplined. In fact, I'm the most ill-disciplined person you will ever meet. But the thing is, when you quit your job, when you put things at stake, you know that you've got to do it. So I did not cut off from my friends. I did not remove the distractions. What I did was I managed them. I decided that I'm not going to cut anything, and I'm not going to decide to be one person, unidimensional, and just do civils. I made sure I had time for everything, but I also set myself targets of study that, okay, this is the course that I need to finish. This is my exam deadline, so I need to be thorough with this before that. And when you keep testing yourself at each stage to see if you've really done your work, it helps.
See, enthusiasm comes when you are self-motivated. So I had the objective in mind that I have to reach that particular thing no matter what comes in my way. Initially, I did not work that much well because I was a technical person, so I concentrated more in my job. But as I realized that this is not for me, so I refocused my energy towards civil services. And regarding the 5 to 6 years, yes, this is a exam which requires a lot of enthusiasm. It requires a lot of motivation, inspiration, but that should all comes from inside because the external factors are short-lived.
See, if you really want something, you will work for it. And the one thing was that it wasn't failure. The thing is, what I do is I find my own faults. I can see where I have gone wrong. I don't blame the system. I don't blame the exam pattern. I don't blame the subject. I don't blame other people. Somebody always clears with that. So it's very stupid to say that अरे subject खराब है और paper अच्छा नहीं आया. Somebody else has always done it. So it's just you. Let's accept that. And I do that. I always accept my mistake. I always accept that it's my fault. And hence I can improve it. So what I do is I always find कि मैंने क्या गलत किया है, where have I lacked, where is my preparation missing, and I just focus and work on that. So it was, see, when you externalize things, you get demotivated. But when you can find your own fault, then you can work on it. So it was more of a journey of improving myself rather than fighting with the system or showing that, oh, this, something is wrong with that or this. So
Actually, it's a long process, unlike CAT or some other where you have to just prepare for a small bit of time and just go. But you understand the basics of this, the spirit of UPSC, why it is conducting this. It wants you to, be calm, cool, composed, and at the same time patient for a long time. And this is what is required after you get into the service. So it's basically a test of your perseverance, which is being tested by this exam.
So the thing is, I am somebody who studies last minute, typical engineer. Thank you, NSIT. But yeah, what happened was that, for the first time when the prelims came, I was very serious and I was studying completely. And in my first year, since at that point there were 2 subjects that we had to take for mains. So we'd only prepared 1 subject, so we had to do the second subject. So we did that. But from the second attempt onwards, it was more about revision and more about just polishing those things. So I would do it mainly after the result of the previous stage had come and then focus on the next stage. So I wasn't very disciplined and I wasn't very motivated, and since I managed to give myself so much guilt by the end of it that at that point I could study. Another thing I do is I don't waste time. I don't sit in front of a book and tell myself I'm studying. Those 7 hours you sit in front of the same page and you're like, I've studied so much. I don't do that. When I study, I study. Otherwise, I don't do that natak of studying. To tell myself or my mom that, okay, I've studied so much. So it gets easier when you're that honest with yourself,
Actually, what happens is UPSC is a type of exam which renews itself after every year. So there are portions which interests you and there are portions which are added every year. For example, we talk about current affairs, we talk about economics, we talk about international relations or science and technology. So this is not a repetition. This is something which you learn and your personality grooms in that way. So it's not that it is boring to revise so many things. Yes, certain portions are static, which once you revise, but conceptually, if you are clear with it, you don't have to focus much on it, and you have to basically develop your analytics and logics. So I think that won't be boring for an engineering person.
I don't think straight away dropping out of college is a smart move. See, this exam does require a lot of luck. Okay, it's the way I see it. It's 40% luck, 40% hard work, and 20% intelligence. So luck is an important factor. You can't bank on it, and your luck also slaps you when you're being stupid. Okay, see, luck is also a lot about strategy and being smart about it, being smart about your choices and your life. So getting a placement and a job gives you a good fallback option. Otherwise, if you don't make it, you have nothing left. So it's better to have a job. Plus, your job gives you certain perspective and certain experience, and that experience helps when you're preparing. See, even when you're preparing, if you have a job, you know that if you fail, you still have something. So it's I hear from a lot of people that, ma'am, I'm getting depressed during preparation. That depression will not happen when you have a job, because you know that life won't go completely to a zero.
There is nothing like a perfect or a skewed answer. Every answer has certain positives, certain negatives. Every scheme has some advantages and disadvantages. We need to write an answer in such a way where we just not focus on the shortcomings of a particular thing. We are not skewed to a particular direction. Rather, we need to find what is the problem with a particular thing and suggest a solution. So in that case, if you think you are in that position where you can take a particular stand because you have already taken into consideration all the solutions for the negatives in that, take a stand. If you are still not clear and if you think that certain more proposals can be added, take a balanced answer.
If they're asking you to take a stand, but a rational stand has to be taken. It shouldn't be an emotional stand. You have to analyze the issue and then whatever is the correct path, give that. Ethical answer everywhere, whether it is the ethics paper or GS1 or GS2, whatever is the ethical thing, you give that, and whatever is the practical thing. Don't give vague answers and don't give vague suggestions and something which can't be implemented ever.
The approach to essay writing is you should have a broad framework. You should know like what all things you need to write and then think in different directions from that, emanating from that common framework. So you should think about its different impacts, different influences, factors affecting that particular thing, problems, solutions, and some future innovations that you would want to take. So if you encompass so many things, so I am sure you will be able to write a very holistic essay, and at the same time your essay will be, you will be covering 7-8 pages, which is actually required.
So reading other people's opinions doesn't give you a different answer. These are other people's opinions anyway. They're not different. They are the opinions that are there for everybody to read, and they are public opinions. They're not your opinions. They're not different. So difference only comes from within. When you think about something, when you put your brains to something, that's the only time you will get something different.
UPSC basically requires you to think innovatively. You will be a DM, you will be at a position where you will be influencing government policies. If your solution provides an innovative mechanism through which those can be solved, it's nothing like that. India, through its innovative motives, would want such people to come forward. So if you have a innovative, do write it. That is an answer which will give an edge over the other aspirants. So maybe you might fetch good marks. If you consider certain 2-3 years papers, you will see the questions are more towards analytical. So analytical is whenever you read a particular article, a blog or some newspaper thing, you have to think why it is happening, why this only is happening, what are the impact of this thing, if this thing happens, what is the effect, positive, negative, and if negative, why. So basically you have to think why is for anything that you do. So that will make your mind open, and sometimes it happens is you don't get answers to all these questions in the same article. So you might want to search a particular answer in different website, at different articles, in different blogs. So that way you will be able to complete a particular topic holistically.
Take any issue, and really any issue, whether it's a magazine cover or photography issues, or how should a college be designed, or societal issues like women empowerment, education, water, hygiene, building toilets, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, anything, discuss with your friends. And when you're discussing something, please ensure that you listen. The problem is when we have discussions, we try to impose our viewpoint on other people because we're trying to win a discussion. We're not trying to discuss, we're trying to win. And that's when you lose. Because your whole point of a discussion is to learn and to get other people's point of view and to understand why somebody could think in a manner different from you. Okay, so that helps, but please listen. The biggest thing that people do when they're discussing is make it about convincing everybody to their side, convincing everybody of their argument, and hence not listen. Hence just say, okay, this is my thing, this is my viewpoint, you have to agree to me. So when you're discussing, listen, at that point think and present your viewpoint also. Don't keep agreeing to the other person, but don't keep just pushing your agenda. It doesn't help. You're trying to build an analytical skill, do it from that perspective. First thing I did was take my home cadre, because you tend to know your home cadre the best. Second thing, I did Hindi states, because I didn't have a language barrier there. I didn't have to learn a second language. And after that, I took states wherein I thought I could gel with the culture more. See, my thing is, I want to work everywhere in India. I don't care whether it's a Vimaru state or a Naxal state or anywhere. I'm here in the system to work, and I hope everybody else who's coming in is coming in to work. So that shouldn't really be a factor that this is a more, underdeveloped state or a developed state, and I want an easier life. I think if you want an easier life, there are many other choices in today's world. But you can look at factors of what promotes your working as an officer better. So for me, language skill was one thing, plus the understanding of the culture was a second aspect, and I focused on those. And obviously home cadre, plus my home cadre is actually the most interesting one. As someone who loves traveling, I get to stay everywhere in India. Andamans, Lakshadweep, Pondicherry, Delhi, Chandigarh, everywhere. So I took that cadre mainly because I got to travel, and the most Indian cadre in that terms.
See, the spirit of UPSC is to work. So when you want to work, you don't consider all these factors. Rather, these are the factors which should promote you to work at such a place. Because you want to come for development. So development can only happen in all those Bimaru states, Naxal affected states, and whatever, where there are political issues. So don't think of political issues at this point of time, because you do not know what happens in a long career of 20-30 years at any stage. So a politically stable state today might not be the same case 10 years after, or vice versa. So these factors are very negligible to think of at this stage. This stage you should just think of a place where you just have that opportunity to work. So the language thing is the first important thing, because you need to understand the problems in a much better way. So the guiding principle should be language, and then you can follow up with different things as and when individual chooses.
It's very individualistic. There's no set formula. What works for me may not work for her, and what works for her doesn't work for me.
DAF filling is an important thing as far as I can say, because DAF will govern how your interview will go. Because sometimes it happens when you are not able to give good answers for general questions, they come back to your DAF where you are comfortable with. So while filling DAF, just don't bluff. Be genuine in your hobbies, in your activities, in your interests, and I think that is the only thing. Just prepare whatever you have written quite well.
You have to be honest. Don't fake. Don't create a hobby out of thin air, because you can't justify that. But beyond that, it's not a complicated affair.
A revision strategy for GS and optionals are different. For optionals, what can happen is, for every unit you can prepare handy notes. For example, if derivations are there, you can start off with the name of the scientist, some main fundamental of that derivation, and maybe the end result, or some specific condition which is considered for that particular derivation. I'm like, for physics I can tell you, this can get shortened for the last week and last day by just writing in the formulas, the integration, some limits and all. You can just revise the formula in one day, and specific start point of the derivation. That can be a strategy for optional. For GS specifically, concepts needs to be clear. So concept clarity is a long driven process. So and on the last day, you can most of the time can just go through one or two factual information, or can revise one or two certain facts related to international affairs or certain events that happened in near month. But for GS, as such, note making or revision strategy I cannot suggest.
Personally, what I do is I have underlined in the books whatever I think are the important issues, or are things that I know I will forget. So when I'm revising during the last week or a month or something, I just go through those. I just turn the pages and I go through the underlined points. That's it. I've not made notes for anything. I just go through the underlines, and these are underlines of issues where I know I will forget. Okay. So for example, in a constitution polity subject, there is a article which has a certain for suppose you have the voting in the parliament. Now something will have a 2/3 majority, something will have a special majority. So you just underline that point that this is 2/3 and this is special. So those kind of things is what I would have underlined, and I just go through those. Your fundamentals are largely built by that time, and most of the questions will be about your fundamentals. So at that minute, it is just revising on issues like that. Okay, so that's the last week. Last month, I basically go through the whole course once. My revision is going through the whole course once.
You can feel anxiety anytime. A normal person will definitely feel it. but the main fundamental remains, if you are thorough, if you are confident, that anxiety you will be able to overcome. So rest, last day just rest, be relaxed, prepare yourself for the next day, your pencil box or whatever, your pens, etc. Just relax, be calm, be composed. That would be the strategy.
That is the right strategy. I don't do it. I'm the opposite. I am basically studying till the last second. Because typical engineer, वो आखिरी दिन ही पढ़ाई स्टार्ट होती है. तो मैं तो भाई एग्जाम हॉल से पहले तक भी नई चीज़ पढ़ रही होती थी. But that's not the right way. You shouldn't go into the exam because if you're not as stable as me, you will get panicked.
If you are consistent with the preparation for the last year, so you know the issues at hand, and when that confidence develops, that will bring sleep along with. So actually sleep is very important, not just for prelims but mains, because mains is a 1 week affair and back to back papers. I'm like rapid fire round, something of a sort, and if you don't sleep one day, you will mess up with the whole thing. So you have to be balancing everything. So I'm like, that is what is required in UPSC. You have to balance your personal life, you have to manage, you have to do office, n number of things. If you're not able to manage at the first stage, so I'm like,
no, but to be honest, I've never been able to sleep before the exam because I don't know, NSIT gave me such bad habit of studying at the last minute. I remember for the final exams here, I used to 8 o'clock in the night, I would remember that tomorrow is an exam for the 10 o'clock exam in the morning. So my habit is always been to study last minute, but then I sleep before that. I make sure I've slept. So what I do is I tend to come back from the exam and then go to sleep and maybe study in the night. If that is what works for me. It's very individual. See what works for you, but you have to know that during your mains you need to know the whole course. What you're doing the last day is just revision. You can't not know your stuff on the last day for mains. It doesn't work like that. It's not engineering. You don't pass.
Interviews are basically judging whether you are a balanced personality or not. So this gives you your personality different aspects, that you are not just good at your academics, which has already been tested by your prelims and mains, but also leadership management skills which are reflected through your co-curricular activities, and you also know how to enjoy life, which is reflected through your interests. Yeah. So basically your whole personality is basically reflected in your DAF form. And the whole personality person can only manage things in a better way when there is a challenging career ahead of you.
You don't actually have internships mentioned like that, and you don't have your projects mentioned. You mainly have any positions of responsibility kind of thing that you've done, any awards that you've won, or you have your curriculars. So these are the only 3 things you have. Okay. It's important to have a balanced personality and a balanced CV. There are some people who have one hobby only, and it can also be surfing on the internet. It's fine. Don't worry about creating hobbies. It's okay if you have just one hobby and it's something vague, as long as you can justify, as long as you can tell the examiner why you do it, and you really do it in a fashion which can be productive. It's fine. Yes, balance helps, balance is required and needed, but don't create things just to seem balanced.
Every day in your life is a new experience, be it working in a startup, be it an entrepreneur yourself, or be it in a private or a public service previously before you interview yourself for the UPSC. So everything is, take it from a personality development point of view, take it from a experience gaining point of view. So every small thing, it brings out your true self that is being tested in an interview. So all these things make you feel more confident about talking, since you have already got experience interacting with so many people. So that can give you an edge, but don't think it solely that only that will give you an edge. So that can help you, and that can help you bring out your true self.
They're not looking for people from certain defined backgrounds. They're not looking for people with a startup or with a MNC or with a government sector. Nothing like that. They're just looking at you as an individual. It doesn't matter what that brand name is.
You should have a clarity what I was lacking in a private company, but what positives I am bringing from that private company into this government job. Knowledge has already been checked in prelims and mains. So knowledge is not a thing which is tested in an interview. What an interview test is your personality development. So your personality is, how you said, the factors you told, these are the things which make your personality. But the core thing that they are aiming to check is whether if you become at such a designated post, whether you will be able to serve the interest of the weaker sections. And that is not reflected by what you say. that is reflected from the thoughts that you communicate. So personality development at the thought level is being checked.
It's the way you think about something that they've given it to you at that moment, how open you are to certain things, how much experience you can bring into the table, and plus the way you obviously carry yourself. That matters. All of that matters.
I chose physics because I thought I can carry physics for 2-3 years. So I had an interest in it. So physics was an obvious choice. Regarding humanities, I can read it but I can't carry it for a long time. So my strategy was where interest lies.
Same here. I love geography. I love traveling. So I thought this is the only thing I can do easily. And I had loved geography in school level as well. So for me, this was the subject which made the most sense. There was a management subject. It wasn't a very clear course, and there was no guidelines in terms of what is the past, what are the past questions, what exactly do they want in terms of answers. All of that was not all that clear. I was pretty sure I can't study the science subjects. So even though my optional is pretty much the toughest in terms of the amount of course and the kind of depth of knowledge that they want, but since I loved it, I took it. Wherever we go, whoever we are, we will always be NSITians. So one thing I would like to say is, first of all, you are all also always going to be NSITians, no matter what you do after this. Because your graduate education is the most important one of your life. This is 4 years of extreme learning, extreme exploration of yourself, the kind of self-discovery you can do at this stage. Plus, when you're entering your 20s from your teens, it changes you completely. So please make sure that you use these years productively. Whatever negatives you have, this is the time to remove them from your personality. Don't keep finding faults with others. Don't keep pulling other people down. These are the friends you will have for the rest of your life. These are the plain, simple, happy friends you will have, because hostels make the best friends. So do explore friendships. Do make lifelong friends. Please explore your options in life, because this place offers you tons of opportunities. You have the best of teachers. You might not have some great ones, but you can always manage, because end of the day, सब जगह पढ़ाई खुद करनी पड़ती है. Enjoy these 4 years. Work as hard as possible at whatever you like. Discover yourself and go. This is going to be the golden time of your life. So do enjoy this.
So basically, NSIT is not just a name. It is a brand in itself, but you have to carry it properly. It is like a family, small thing. So when you rise up, you just have to be connected. Connections are basically networking, as we say in computers. So networking is very important if you want to have a free flow of ideas, free flow of thoughts. So the only advice is do whatever you want to do in college. College has immense opportunities, be it co-curricular, be it technical, be it service. Immense opportunities. So just explore what your true love lies in. But at the same time, excel in whatever you choose, because ultimately the responsibility is on your shoulder. But at the same time, just make sure that you don't, you should make that NSIT proud, and you should make sure that NSIT is known not just in India but the world over.